Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, October 1st, 2024 City Council meeting, regular City Council meeting. The Walnut Creek City Council encourages a respectful dialogue that supports freedom of speech and values diversity of opinion. The council and the staff and members of the public are expected to be civil and courteous and to refrain from questioning the character or motives of others participating in the meeting. The city requests that speakers not use threatening, profane, or abusive language which disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the council meeting. If you have any questions, please refer to the end of the agenda to review the options for participating in the meeting. And after that, will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Francois.
Here.
Councilmember Silva.
Here.
Councilmember Wilk.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Darling.
Here.
Mayor Haskew.
Here. The next item on the agenda is the oath of office for our student commissioners. So would you please, student commissioners, come forward?
So if you could please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. You could all repeat together. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations.
Hi. Yeah, I'm out here because I'm very proud of your committing to all of this and excited about your opportunity to help the city be a better place. So would each of you, I'm going to ask a question. What inspired you to apply for this?
Well, I attended a city council meeting last year, and I'd never seen anything like this before in our city, so I got really interested in that, and I was just waiting for this school year to start to apply because I found out about the youth commission and youth seats on these commissions.
Which commission are you going to be on?
Arts commission?
Arts Commission. Are you an artist?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Don't go away because we're going to have a picture later on. Come forward, please. Your question is what inspired you, and then I'll think of something else to ask you after.
What inspired me is that
Give your name.
I'm Diego Kirsch. I'm a junior at Los Alamos. What inspired me to become a youth commissioner is to make sure that young voices are being represented in government, and I also want to make a positive change in the city. Yeah.
Okay. And which commission are you going to be?
I'm on the Transportation Commission.
And how do you get around the city?
My parents drive me. I don't have
Okay. And are you going to try and transportation is one of my specialties too. Are you going to try and make more people find other means of transportation than just driving around?
Yeah, that's the goal.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good luck. And you, please, would you come forward and tell me your name?
I'm Elijah Conson from the, I'm a junior at Walnut.
Good job. And which commission are you going to be on?
Parks and Recreation.
Ah, do you use our parks very often?
Oh, yeah. Very common. I usually go there when I have nothing else to do for the day.
Okay. And do you play a specific sport?
I do like archery.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where do you do that?
Well, not exactly in this city, but
Oh,
in a neighboring city.
Okay, anything else besides that?
I like track and field.
Okay,
Yeah, basically my second favorite sport.
good. Well, you're taller than I am and your legs are longer and you're probably a whole lot faster. Okay, well, congratulations, all of you, and thank you very much for your application and come. With the council, please join us. You can join if you want to.
We do bite sometimes, but most of the time.
You need to center yourselves like right here, so that the logo, you're off balance.
Going up and we're getting closer. There we go. Nice, you're there. 1, 2, 3. Everybody's smiling here. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I think this is my seat. And next on the agenda is a proclamation. Whereas the City of Walnut Creek adopted local roadway safety plan, A Path to Vision Zero, on August 2023, with a goal to improve safety on city roadways for all users. Walnut Creek is a Vision Zero city and endeavors to eliminate all transportation-related deaths and severe injuries while increasing safer, healthier, and more equitable mobility for all. Whereas between 2015 and 2021, about 1 out of every 3 serious injuries or fatal collisions in Walnut Creek involved a pedestrian. Everyone shares the responsibility for road safety. Drivers must slow down and be alert for pedestrians. Whereas personal, physical, and environmental benefits of walking can lead to safer, healthier, and cleaner streets. Walking can improve local economies and enhance social and community engagement, which can lead to more vibrant, resilient, and livable spaces. And walking has been shown to enhance citizens' health, well-being, and overall quality of life, while also contributing to Walnut Creek's economy and reducing pollution, congestion, and parking challenges on our streets. Now, therefore, I, Luella Haskew, Mayor of the City of Walnut Creek, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim October 2024 as Pedestrian Safety Month and encourage citizens to recommend the joys of walking and prioritize safety of pedestrians in our community. And this is especially important to me as a proclamation because from those of you who were here when I was first elected to council, every council meeting, I tried to remind people about pedestrian and traffic safety. It was my goal to improve the safety in Walnut Creek. Sadly, it wasn't a complete success. So I'm going to turn this over to you with this proclamation to make sure that that happens. And please come forward to accept this.
Oh, did it?
Tell us your name.
Yes,
And I'm not going to ask you any questions.
there you go. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Haskew. Council members, my name is Brianna Byrne. I'm an associate traffic engineer here at the City of Walnut Creek. And I could go on about how much traffic safety means to me, but on behalf of Public Works, we are doing what we can, both in terms of coming up with the designs and then maintaining those facilities so that our residents can continue to use them safely. We're always appreciative to partner with our Walnut Creek Police Department. And then lastly, I would just like to urge drivers to slow down, drive within the speed limit, and be a conscientious driver and look out for those more vulnerable roadway users who also call Walnut Creek home.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. I wanted to say thank you on behalf of the Walnut Creek Police Department. I am your traffic and outreach manager, Lieutenant Jeff Slater. So I'm fortunate enough to be here to say thank you again for your continued support of public safety, particularly when it comes to traffic. This is something that we have discussed for years and has also been a council priority for several years. I'm happy to say that this is the first of the month. We did a social media post today to outreach to our community to let them know that we are committed to that for this month. But that is not just going to be October. It will be going forward much longer than that. But you can expect Walnut Creek PD to be doubling down on our efforts at the school zones before and after school, since we know that there's increased pedestrian traffic during those times. All at the time during our downtown patrols that we do, reminding officers that we need to keep our restaurants and shopping districts safe, and above all, our Rossmore community, that we get a lot of complaints and concerns over there. And I'd also like to invite you to a personal invitation. Don't worry, I'll send you a calendar invite. But we are doing Coffee with a Cop, where Rossmore invited us there to do an emphasis on traffic safety as well as fraud prevention. So I'd encourage you all to make it if you can. And thank you again for supporting us in all of our endeavors.
And thank you for making our community safer. We really appreciate it. Does anybody have anything to add?
I'll just say thank you for being so responsive as well. I think I'm not unique in that we probably all get more complaints about speeding and safety on the streets and sidewalks and you name it, and we direct them to you. So thank you for being responsive in all of that. I know that I appreciate it, we appreciate it, and there's no doubt that the community does. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is the consent calendar. Does anybody wish to pull an item?
I'd like to pull item E.
Okay, anybody else? Would anybody in the audience like to come forward and do public comment on any item on the consent calendar? Seeing none, I'm bringing it back to council.
I move the adoption of the consent calendar items to A through D and F through I.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. May I have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Silva.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilk.
Aye.
Councilmember Francois.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Darling.
Aye.
Mayor Haskew.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Item E.
So this was, I didn't have a question on this. I just wanted to bring this forward because it's regarding seeking authorization on applying for a grant for up to almost $180,000 for ADUs. And this was made possible due to our state senator, Steve Glazer. Wanted to see if the city manager had a quick comment on this, just to really let the residents know how this came to be. And it's great to be able to apply for grants.
Yeah, as you noted, this is basically a trial program to incentivize the acceleration of the building of accessory dwelling units. And for those cities that don't have pre-approved construction plans on file to develop those to simplify the process, Walnut Creek already does have that on file, that process in place. This would provide those that are looking to build and own the ADUs anywhere from roughly $5,000 to $14,000 to help offset the cost of construction depending upon the type of ADU and if there are any deed restrictions to keep it low income. So we're excited about this. We hope to accelerate the production of ADUs as is intended by the pilot program, as it is part of our housing element and housing strategy to have more ADUs built in the city.
Thank you.
There's a question.
I have a question. I'm city manager, and perhaps this will involve the community development director. Many members of the public may not know that we have pre-approved plans available for accessory dwelling units. Perhaps somebody explain where they are located, how you find them, and how are we promoting them?
Hello, Erica Vandenbrand, Community Development Director. In terms of where to find them, you find them on the city's website. The easiest way to go through the labyrinth is just to type in the search PRODU or pre-reviewed access ADU plans. So that's the easy way. And in terms of telling the community about it, there are a number of different things that we've done already in terms of getting that out into the nutshell and so forth. But in addition, as part of the grant program, we will have additional information available to the community, both at the front counter and in various places throughout the city, and that we'll be working together with council at your Sunday farmers market time to be able to have information available to the public there too. And in addition to that, we have a developers forum coming up, and so there's information that will be available there, but there's a lot of social media that's going to be anticipated, assuming that you actually do approve us getting the, getting the grant or seeking the grant dollars and so forth.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And with that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. May I have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Wilk.
Aye.
Councilmember Silva.
Aye.
Councilmember Francois.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Darling.
Aye.
Mayor Haskew.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, next item on the agenda is public communications. Excuse me. Under this portion of the meeting is reserved for comment on items not on the agenda. Under the Brown Act, the council cannot act on items raised during public communications, but may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed, request clarification, or refer the item to staff. Consistent with Section 9.5 of the City Council Handbook, pardon me, 30 minutes will be allocated at this time for public communications for items not on the agenda. If there is more than that, we'll do it after the final of the meeting. Is there anybody who would like to make a public communication? Holy cow. Okay. There seems to be, now I have no idea what's happening. There seems to be none. So we're going to move on to council member and staff announcements. Reports on activities and requests, city attorney.
Madam Mayor, there were no reportable actions from closed session this evening.
City manager,
I do not have an update this evening, Mayor.
Kevin Wilk.
Okay. There were a few things that happened over the last couple of weeks, one of my most favorite things to do every year, and I did this with Councilmember Francois as well, as went to Las Lomas and spoke to a couple of the government classes regarding local government. And really just, I mean, here's an opportunity for any government class. So anybody watching Northgate, Las Lomas, any of the private schools, we are happy to talk about local government for a day in your senior government classes. I did note, and I don't know if you know, we didn't talk about this afterwards, but in all the classes now, they have pouches for, I think it was up to 35, and all the students come in when they enter the classroom and put their phones in this big matrix with pouches at the beginning of class, and then they pick them up when the bell rings and they leave. And this is an Akalani School District mandate now, and of course we're seeing that the state mandate is going to be one as well, but they're not doing this currently in Mount Diablo School District. And I noticed that every student was paying attention when we spoke this time, and they weren't on their phones. So kudos to you, Las Lomas and Akalani School District. Glad to see that. I also had the honor of welcoming the Mothers Against Drunk Driving Walk Like Mad event, which was yesterday at Civic Park. And there were police departments from all over, including our own Walnut Creek Police Department and the CHP, as well as San Leandro Police Department. And really, this is just to ensure that people are safe and not driving under the influence, and they save lives. We have still 11,000 people that are killed annually from drunk driving. So I really appreciate the work that they do and the walk that they bring to Walnut Creek to highlight their activity. I was invited and attended the Chick-fil-A opening in the Willows in Concord. I see the mayor with her. I was invited to attend this. Of course, we've had Chick-fil-A discussed here in the council chambers. But what I brought this up for a couple of reasons. One is they are pulling away all of that, some of that traffic that is on North Main Street, and those people that are coming to our Chick-fil-A in Walnut Creek now, if they're from Pleasant Hill or Concord, they're much more likely to go to the Willows. And so it's going to help our own traffic and the parking problems that are happening at Chick-fil-A. It's not going to alleviate all of them, but it's going to have an influence there. So that was the first part I wanted to bring up. And the second was that the owner there told me that they have hired 155 people for jobs at that Chick-fil-A. Most of these are students. Most of them, it's their first job ever. So I just wanted to bring this up as when we do have these kind of businesses that are in Walnut Creek, whether or not it's a Chick-fil-A that's going to be in one area of town or another restaurant, these bring local jobs. And as any of us who have children that are looking for their first job, we're always hopeful they can get that first job and get something on their resume. So I thought that was interesting to bring up. I also represented with the Mayor Pro Tem Sustainability Awards Gala, and that was in Pleasant Hill about 10 days ago, I guess it was. And then great to see these kind of awards. And I think we did have a couple of businesses that okay, Mayor Pro Tem is going to talk about that, so thank you for that one. And then I also was at the Bedford Gallery opening for Abstraction, which just opened this last weekend. The works in this exhibition capture the vibrancy of the emerging abstract movements during the 60s and 70s, including abstract expressionism, minimalism, op art, and pop art. This runs through December 15th, and I would encourage anybody that is able to attend it. And of course, if you have a ticket to go to an event for the theater at Lesher Center, that ticket will also get you in. Just come a couple minutes early, and that'll get you into the Bedford Gallery as well. That's my report.
Councilmember Silva.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. At our recent Recycle Smart board meeting, which Councilmember Francois and I serve on the Recycle Smart board, which is a 6-agency recycling, waste, and organics entity. We heard the annual report on our schools program. There are 68 schools within the service territory of our 6 areas, or 6 agencies, and from elementary and then middle schools and high schools, as well as some private schools as well that participate in the school program. And this last year, through this work, these schools diverted 2,356 tons of what would have been waste into either organics or recyclables, which translates to 4,500 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions, or the equivalent of 950 passenger vehicles per year on our roads. So kudos to the schools. It was interesting to hear the report because, as usual, they described their teaching elementary school-age children how to recycle. And they do it really, really well by the time they're, all the way through 5th grade. They get to middle school, they're a little distracted, and then they get to high school and they're really distracted. So the elementary schools do a great job. Some of them are over 75% diversion totals. So the other thing we heard about, and I will mention it, and then I'm sure we can get a report on it from our own public works staff, is that the Recycle Smart and the City of Walnut Creek and Republic Services are preparing to partner on a pilot of a compost hub that would be located at Heather Farm Park. And this is basically a program in which compost will be available on a defined day of the month, and it would be available on a first-come, first-served basis to people with, not just within Walnut Creek, but within the whole area to come get compost. And I would love it if we could hear more about it as the plans are coming to fruition. And it's being operated or would be operated similar to the sandbag stations that our public works staff deploys in our neighborhoods, including mine, every winter. And finally, I will mention that a week from Saturday, the 12th of October, is our annual Community Service Day. It is the 14th year. We have 34 projects. One of them had to be canceled today because of rattlesnakes in the Pine Creek detention basin area. So the prudent thing was to ask volunteers to go work someplace else and not to be digging around in the Arundo amongst rattlesnakes. The city's home, you can sign up. There are more than 750 people currently signed up to help that day, but there are still places where we need help, and you can get to it through the city's homepage. And thank you very much.
Councilmember Francois.
Thank you, Mayor. As Councilmember Silva mentioned, I also serve on the Recycle Smart Board. She gave a great report about the school progress report. We also had an agenda item on the collection franchise. You've heard me talk ad nauseum about our collection process.
You're going to explain what we talked
about. I'm ready. I've got my bullet points. So we are entering some of the terms that we agreed to include in the RFP for the collection contract differ from our current contract, and the primary issue that we're facing is transition to zero emission vehicles. So we've expanded the term of the agreement from 10 years to 15 years to try to account for and accommodate the increased costs that will be associated with the transition that these collectors will have to make to zero emission vehicles. And also have changed the rate year from March to March to a fiscal year, the way that our budget works and most city budgets work. And that we've also, on the cost saving standpoint, though, unlike our current contract, which required the provider to come in day one with all new trucks and all new carts, we're allowing for existing trucks and carts to be used. We'll have to, if it's a different provider than we have now, then it'll be relabeled, so you'll know that your complaints will still be answered, but by a different service provider. How'd I do?
We're releasing this RFP in about a month. The proposals are due in January, and the new program wouldn't take effect until March of 2027. So you're going to hear the two of us talk about it a lot.
So the good progress on that front. What else did I did want to point out too, in terms of the school report, that in addition to the impressive total figures of waste that's been diverted from the landfill, several of our elementary schools in Walnut Creek have, get the gold star for achieving the 75% preferred diversion rate. And we're still working with our high schools, but almost all of our elementary schools are there, which is really great. And so I'm pleased with that, along with, well, I serve as a chamber liaison. Unfortunately, I left my notes at the office, but I remember Dan was there, and he gave a good update about what we're doing. And then Charles was there to introduce Charles Ching, our new assistant city manager. Got an update on kind of the business survey that they're putting out for all their members and working on their strategic plan. In addition, they've got the dates on the calendar for Art and Wine next year, which will be at a downtown location due to construction happening in Heather Farm Park, as well as the Women's Conference, which will also be at the Lesher Center again next year. And I did have the pleasure of going to Las Lomas with Councilmember Wilk, and we're often asked, or some council candidates were even asked this year, how do council members interact with our local schools? And this is one area where obviously the schools are represented by different board of directors, and we don't have purview or jurisdiction over that. But it feels like one area where we can, as city council members, kind of interact with teachers, students. We stopped by and visited with the principal afterwards and said hello. We've been to the Wellness Center at Los Lomas before, so nice to make that connection once a year, and glad to do that. And then finally, with several of my colleagues, I was at the East Bay Division of the League of Cities meeting in Dublin at their very impressive aquatic facility called The Wave, which has a ton of really cool slides and pools and beach entries. It was a nice evening, and it was the KQED political reporter Guy Maserati gave an update on the initiatives on this year's statewide ballot. And that's my report, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. And as Councilmember Wilk said, we went to the Sustainability Gala, and there were 3 Walnut Creek awardees. The Planet Renew, which is a retail outlet here in town that focuses on sustainable goods, won a prize. Philip Cow, who is a Northgate recent graduate, did a lot of work in sustainability. That was his project, and helping reusable clothing collection drives and taking those to Trinity Center. And then our own Sustainable Walnut Creek got an award, which was really nice to see. So that was a lot of fun. There was a lot of other great green business recognitions and folks working hard at implementing all of our various sustainability action plans. We went to, City Manager Buckshire and I went to the Walnut Creek Downtown Board meeting. I think, Kevin, you were also there. A couple things going on there. First of all, Chief Knox gave him a great update on public safety downtown, focusing in part on the nightlife and the activities that our police department has had undergoing to kind of help curb some of the excesses that are going on in the nightlife, and then getting ahead of the wave of Christmas shopping and holiday season and getting ready to have a good presence downtown so that we can keep people feeling safe downtown. We did also talk about outdoor dining. Walnut Creek Downtown is talking to different people who are looking at whether or not they're doing outdoor dining. You know, we all work together to come up with that program, and now we're looking to see how is it working in real time. Are there lessons that we can learn and things that we can see? Of course, most of Locust Street has been torn up and repaved and torn up and repaved, so that we haven't been able to get going there. But we're looking forward to hearing more about what they're hearing from their members of outdoor dining. And lastly, there is an artisan market on Main Street, October 27th and November 24th, and that is to help bring some of the activity. Right now, Locust, in spite of the fact we keep tearing up the street, has a lot more going on. And so we wanted to bring some activity over to Main Street, and the artisan market will be that opportunity. So the last thing is MCE. A couple things going on there. They just started a water heater loaner program. You know, come 2027, you won't be able to buy a regular gas water heater. But in the meantime, we would like people who have their water heater go out have the chance to think about whether or not they want to do a heat pump water heater so that it's on electric instead of gas. And so this is a loaner program working through different contractors so that they can install a temporary new gas one. When yours goes out in the middle of the night, right in the middle of laundry, you can get something in place so that while you're doing the research, there's a little bit of evaluating your electrical panel and trying to figure all that out that needs to happen to make the switch. That way you can still have hot water and your kids can go to school in clean clothes while you're making that decision. And it's something that will help people with the decision-making process. Then MCE also has a grant opportunity out right now to partnership opportunities and looking for people to help educate communities about clean energy programs and services. You know, many of the hard dates where things are going to have to start happening are 27, 28, 29. In the meantime, people can start learning about them and things like the fact that there is a water heater loaner program. So I've sent that around to our partners here in Contra Costa and Walnut Creek, and hopefully we'll get some money to help with that. And that is my sustainability and downtown report.
Thank you. I don't have anything nearly as exciting. There was a CCTA meeting that was remarkably dull, and I'm not going to bore you with any of the things we talked about. I did attend a kind of pop-up community concert at the place, the City Lights. What do we call the place? Waterlight Plaza, where some amateur musicians got to play part of the Beethoven Ninth Symphony and outside with an audience, and it was pretty exciting because they actually were conducted by the conductor of the California Symphony. So it was a great experience to listen and to watch the faces of the musicians look so happy, and of course their parents, because some of them were young enough to have the parents there. I believe that is the first of many of those programs, and we are looking for all kinds of programs to consider doing something like that in Walnut Creek. It attracts people downtown, which is part of what we want to have happen, but it's also a chance to meet new neighbors and friends and people who have similar interests. So, and while we're talking about that, I didn't go to Oktoberfest because I was tired this weekend, but we did drive downtown to see the last of Arsenic and Old Lace, a very, very funny production, new production on the way. But the Oktoberfest looked like it was just it was a barn burner. There was lots of people walking up and down the streets, and lots of no parking spots available. So I believe Walnut Creek downtown is going to consider that a giant success. That's it for me, and that moves us on to the public hearing, where we waive reading and introduce an ordinance amending Title 10, Chapter 2 of the Walnut Creek Municipal Code, confirming the California Employee Housing Act and removing constraints on persons with disabilities. Hello and welcome again.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Haskew and members of the council. Aaron Sage, Principal Planner with the Community Development Department, and I'll be presenting this item is the first of two housing element implementation ordinances before you this evening. The title of the item is Zoning Updates to Conform with the California Employee Housing Act and to Remove Constraints on Persons with Disabilities. And of course, I'll be explaining what all of that means shortly. But first, a little bit of background from our housing element. Just wanted to set the policy background for you. There are two programs that give us our marching orders for this item. The first is program H4E, which requires us to update the zoning ordinance to regulate employee housing for 6 or fewer employees in the same manner as a single-family dwelling per the California Employee Housing Act. And in short, what that act states is that when you have housing that's provided by employers and such housing is provided for 6 or fewer employees, cities have to treat that in the same manner that they would as a single-family dwelling. They're not allowed to treat it as a boarding house or really any other type of use. And staff, in analyzing our code and determining what would be the best way to comply with that act, we determined that the most expeditious way would be to amend the definition of family in the zoning ordinance. Which brings us to the second program on the screen, H4H, to update the definition of family to remove language that creates a constraint for persons with disabilities. This program is actually further out on the schedule than the first program, but because we are already needing to amend the definition of family to address the first program, we decided to combine these two into one item tonight and save you some time, and as well as saving staff some time. So we're going to look quickly at the two definitions that tie together in our zoning ordinance. The first is dwelling unit. It states 1 or more rooms served by a single common kitchen, designed for occupancy by one family for living and sleeping purposes. So obviously we have a reference to the term family, and that term becomes important from a legal standpoint. We have a separate definition of family, which I won't read through, thankfully. But as you can see, it's quite long and complicated, and the gist of it is to provide various ways in conformance with various court decisions over the years that the city is allowed to define what type of group of people is considered the occupants of a single dwelling unit, whether that be a single family unit or a apartment unit within a multifamily property. Now our housing element cites these two items that are highlighted in yellow, B and E, related to shared household expenses and shared responsibility for household work. It cites those two as being constraints on persons with disabilities. And when you stop and think about it, that becomes fairly obvious why that might be the case. Particularly shared responsibility for household work for those that have limited mobility or limited physical limitations, that obviously could be problematic. But staff also identified some additional ones that we believe also would be constraints in some cases on persons with disabilities, and those are highlighted with the teal color. D, E, and G are quite obviously, I think, constraints on persons with disabilities. I is really more of a practicality issue around, it's a term that is very vague and very difficult for staff to enforce. So while we're in this process of essentially streamlining and cleaning up this definition, we wanted to include that as well. So this is the ordinance amendment that we've proposed. The deleted text is struck through and the red underlined text is new. So it's quite simple, really. It's just removing those problematic items from the definition of family and then adding a specific reference that employee housing for 6 or fewer employees is considered a family. I won't read through the next few slides, but these just give you some policy background tying into your goals and priorities around why we believe that this is consistent with council's policies and direction. From our general plan, high quality of housing and affordable workforce housing. The second one I'll just note briefly, obviously we always want infill development to be compatible with adjacent and nearby uses whenever possible. We believe that although we are one might characterize that we're taking away some teeth from the definition of family. We don't believe that those are really important teeth when it comes to preventing impacts on other uses. We still have the most important uses, most important elements of the definition of family, such as sharing a single lease, having a single kitchen, and apologize, I'm forgetting what the other one is off the top of my head. Use by all persons of a shared common entry. So those are physical elements that, or in the case of a lease, a very easily enforced and identified financial element as well that really go directly to what might distinguish a dwelling unit from a boarding house or other types of uses along those lines. This is the goal from the housing element that led to the program that we're implementing to remove constraints. And I'll just summarize the objectives with this item. Obviously, comply with applicable state laws, implement our housing element, increase housing options and provide more equitable options for both employees and persons with disabilities, and then maintain the components of the family definition that distinguish individual dwelling units from higher intensity group residential uses, as I just described. The recommendation before you this evening is adopt the resolution and adopt the amendments to the zoning ordinance to conform with the California Employee Housing Act and remove constraints on persons with disabilities. And I'll include in our recommendation, there was a typo on the last paragraph of page 2 of the ordinance that was brought to our attention. We just need to delete a D there as noted in that parenthetical. So I'd ask that that be included as well. And I'm at this point happy to take any questions.
Okay, I'm opening up for questions. Please.
Thank you very much for the presentation. We had a public comment that we received this afternoon that I think might be worthy of addressing, which is really a protocol issue, whether you can answer it or the city attorney. But since state law says we have to do this, why do we have to go through the process of doing it? Why doesn't it just automatically happen, or couldn't staff just have done this? And I think that would just, that clarification.
An amendment pursuant to state law, an amendment to the zoning codes requires public hearings before the planning commission and the city council and actions by the city council.
And if we didn't actually amend the zoning code, then what could happen under state law if we didn't comply with state law?
Many things, but in some instances, it could call your housing element certification into question if it's severe enough. If you're not implementing the policies of your housing element and making the changes that you've agreed to make, it can result in enforcement by HCD and potential decertification of a certified housing element.
Would it be safe to say also that we're every city is different and may have a different way of having interpreted and codified the definition of family, so everybody has to do this in a different way, potentially? There's no one quick fix?
Generally, that's correct. As Aaron indicated, there's been a fair amount of case law about the definition of family over the years, and so cities have been, probably over the last decade or two, they have been engaged in updating their definitions of families.
But it isn't as simple as saying, now that you had your zoning code written in black, it now needs to be written in blue.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And I know you're going to have a good answer for this one, but with this new definition of family it does say that this does not include a group occupying a boarding house, dormitory, fraternity, or sorority house, convent, rectory, or private residential club. How do you what's the differential, or are those things defined somewhere else in the code?
They do have their own definitions.
Okay.
Really, I think it's, the lack of those items that are
shared
identified
kitchen
in
and the shared entry.
in the dwelling unit and family definitions are key to the other definition.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anything else? I see nothing there. I'm looking for a public comment. Is there any public comment? There is one person who potentially could make that public comment, and they're not moving. So I'm assuming there's no public comment. So I'm bringing it back to council. Is there any?
I will move to waive reading and introduce the ordinance making CEQA exemption findings under Section 15061B3 of the CEQA Guidelines and amending Title 10, Chapter 2, Zoning Ordinance of the Walnut Creek Municipal Code to update the definition of family to conform with the California Employee Housing Act and to remove constraints on persons with disabilities.
Matt?
Second.
Oh, I was going to let Matt second. Okay.
He was ready to vote.
Oh. Okay. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Darling.
Aye.
Councilmember Silva.
Aye.
Councilmember Francois.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilk.
Aye.
Mayor Haskew.
Of course, aye. Moving, are we on to the second? And do you get to do that one too?
I do, yeah.
Congratulations.
Isn't that convenient? I won't bother introducing myself again. So this item is going to be a little more complex, so I'll ask for your patience in advance. This item is updates to our accessory dwelling unit ordinance regulations, also part of the zoning ordinance. And I'll start by just saying that essentially everything that's included in the proposed ordinance before you tonight is to conform with state law. So there's very limited discretion in any of the text before you tonight. There's one caveat to that, and I'll explain that a little bit later, related to design criteria. Just an overview of the presentation, starting with legislative background, and then we'll briefly summarize our current regulations, overview some of the new legislation that took effect after we last made changes to our ADU ordinance, and then we will summarize the proposed amendments before you this evening. So as we all know, we've been in a housing crisis for the last several years, and going back before that, I think most people would say that there's been a housing shortage for perhaps decades. And because of that, the state has been passing laws related to ADUs to streamline them in one form or another for several years. ADUs, accessory dwelling units for the untrained, are essentially small secondary units that are built on a property that has a single-family dwelling, or more recently, as allowed by the state, a multifamily apartment structure as well. And they are inherently affordable because, obviously, being smaller, they will cost less to build, they'll cost less for the occupant to rent, and then they also provide income to the landowner who's building them, which helps to offset the cost and further incentivize construction and allow those cost savings to be passed on to renters. Since 2002, there have been numerous laws related to ADUs, starting with a law to permit them by right, to streamline the processing of them in various ways, and to reduce or remove certain standards. So our ADU ordinance was last updated in 2021, and the major amendments that were done at that time included allowing 4-foot side and rear setbacks. And I'll just note that side in that version of the code was just an interior side rather than what we call a corner side or a street side for corner lots. Also at that time, the concept of state-exempt ADUs was introduced. State-exempt ADUs are essentially specific defined types of ADUs, which I'll cover a little bit later, that the state says these have to be allowed with no further regulations by the city other than what is spelled out for those particular types of ADUs. So that was added in 2021. Also, an allowance for ADUs on multifamily lots was added at that time, and then parking was removed for ADUs at that time as well. So some new legislation took effect after 2021, most notably AB 2221, SB 897, and AB 434. And these bills required jurisdictions to permit multiple ADUs rather than the one ADU that was required previously, to allow additional height. Previously 16 feet was the default height limit that had to be allowed, and the state added several tiers of height up to 25 feet, which I'll go into. And there were various other changes included in those laws. In 2024, SB 477 was signed into law, which outlines review timeframes and processes allowed for ADUs and junior ADUs for the permit review of those. And tonight's ordinance includes adding a new section that closely matches the review timeframes and processes for that bill. So as I indicated at the beginning, all of the changes in the ordinance are necessary to conform to state law, but there is one caveat. As noted in the second bullet, we do have some discretion on how we go about requiring objective design criteria. We get to decide what criteria to apply as long as they are objective and they don't create an unreasonable constraint on ADU production. But other than that, all of the other components of the ordinance are essentially just restating what is already stated in state law within the framework of our own ordinance. So the next several slides are going to get into the maximum number of ADUs that is allowed on a single family lot, which is obviously going to be the most typical type of ADU that we see. Our current regulation allows one accessory dwelling unit and one junior accessory dwelling unit. And state law, along with guidance from the State Housing and Community Development Department, states that we have to allow one conversion or attached ADU that's part of a new dwelling, one of those two, as well as one detached ADU and one junior ADU. So essentially, our ordinance currently allows a total of 2 ADUs if you include a JDU, whereas state law allows up to 3. And so the ordinance will match the law and the guidance from HCD, and I'll go into a little more detail right now. So these two images here show you a couple of different options of how someone can achieve the one ADU and the one JDU that's currently allowed by our ordinance. And I don't know if there's a pointer on there, is there? Okay. Okay, that's fine. But on the left, you can see there's an ADU that's detached from the main home. That could either be a brand new construction ADU, or it could be converting a workshop or a garage, other detached structure that existed previously. And then the JDU in this case is shown as a garage conversion of the main dwelling. On the right, we have another way of achieving the same number of ADUs. In this case, it's converting or perhaps adding on to the primary home at the rear there. And then again, we have the same JDU.
So can you go back, please? That's currently, this
Correct.
is our current ordinance.
Correct.
Which is not compliant with state law.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Those are just two different ways that someone can max out under our current regulation. By the way, I should note that we always comply with state law where it conflicts with our current ordinance. So I'm really just describing what's in the text of our ordinance, not what someone would get if they walked in the door today. So this slide shows under the proposed regulations consistent with state law. As you can see, there's 3 purple boxes, so a total of 3 ADUs, including the JDU, as well as the primary home, which would bring you up to a total of 4 units. This slide shows...
Can you go back on that
Sure.
diagram? So what that diagram says to me is primary home plus 1 junior accessory dwelling unit plus 2 ADUs, but 1 must be attached versus 1 must be somewhere within the confines of the footprint of the existing home.
Hold that thought, because on the next slide, I'm going to...
Okay, you're going to elaborate.
I'm going to
All right,
address
thank
that.
you, sorry.
How about, what's the difference in this scenario between the ADU and the JADU? They're both purple boxes connected to the house.
Right. Junior, that's a very important question. Junior ADUs are limited to 500 square feet, and they can only be built within an existing single-family home. So they have to be done as a conversion rather than through an addition. The ADU in the upper left of the primary home could be done either as a conversion. You could take, any portion of your home, whether it be the garage or some other bedroom or a group of bedrooms, turn that into an ADU, or you could do an addition on the home.
Okay, so JADU in this scenario limited to 500 square feet, and the one up in the upper left it's a state approved exempt ADU, so it's 800 square feet?
On this slide, we're not distinguishing between state exempt and non-state exempt. So on the next slide and several slides, I'll show you how...
I'll let you get there. But before you do...
Yes.
Can you just step back? ADU, if you were in that scenario, it looks like it could be the primary bedroom or something like that. There's got to be cooking facilities and bathrooms, and what makes an ADU an ADU? It's
essentially the same as a primary dwelling. It has to have independent cooking and bathing facilities. The exception to that is for junior ADUs. The cooking facilities are more minimal, and they're allowed to share bathroom facilities with the primary unit.
Huh, okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, ADUs have to have an independent entrance/exit. I don't believe that is the case for junior ADUs, but I would have to confirm that. Okay. So this table shows how we have addressed this issue of state exempt versus non-state exempt ADUs and the number of ADUs that you're allowed to get. The proposed ordinance allows an applicant to pick from one type 1 ADU and one type 2 ADU. With the caveat that, as you can see in red, on 1D and 2B, which are not state exempt, all the others are state exempt, and I'll just go here. So in the purple boxes are the state exempt ADUs. So the non-state exempt ADUs have the caveat that they have to be built prior to any other ADUs in order to be combined with a second ADU. So if somebody builds type 1D first, they then could build a type 2 ADU. However, if someone builds a type 2 ADU first, they would not be eligible for type 1D. They would only be eligible for type A, B, or C from type 1. You might be wondering why are we going through those gyrations? The reason is that the types 1D and type 2B go beyond the mandates of state law. They're non-state exempt. So we are not required under state law to allow those types of ADUs. We are required to allow the others. Because of that, and because of the way our ordinance is currently set up, staff has approached this under the assumption, which you are welcome to differ with tonight if you choose. It's a policy decision, but we've drafted the ordinance to maintain the current approach of limiting the number of ADUs as much as we can under state law. So what that leads to is type 1D, again, can only be built if it's built before any other ADUs, not including junior ADUs. Those are always going to be allowed in combination with ADUs. But if somebody does build type 1D or type 2B first, then they get to select one of the state exempt ADUs from the other type that they did not choose. I'll just let that sink in for a moment.
Okay, so the ones in purple or pink are exempt,
Correct.
and by exempt means we have very little discretionary review possible.
We have no discretionary review on any ADUs. What exempt means in comparison with non-exempt, which are both going to be ministerial, non-discretionary, but what exempt doesn't have that non-exempt does have is design review.
But that's a staff level with objective design standards, so a checklist.
Correct. So non-state exempt is going to have some additional objective design criteria, which we've beefed up and made completely objective in this ordinance. Whereas state exempt, we're not even going to get into those at all. It's going to be a lot fewer boxes to check than on a non-state exempt. We're only checking boxes in both cases, but the number of boxes is going to be a lot fewer when you stay within the purple boxes that are before you.
But the exempt ones are still subject to standards such as setbacks.
Correct.
That have been established in state law.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. As well as, of course, building code, various public works standards that might apply to any site work that they're doing, utility connections, et cetera. There's various codes that live outside of the zoning ordinance that will always apply. Okay, I'm going to go through each of these so we know what we're talking about. So type 1A, our first state exempt type from category 1, we're talking about an ADU that's located within a proposed dwelling. So state law identifies when you build a proposed single-family dwelling and have an interior ADU as part of that, that is so-called state exempt and not subject to design review or those additional regulations that the city has authority to impose. Type 1B, converting from a portion of an existing dwelling. So your home is already there. You come in for a permit to convert part of that to an accessory dwelling unit. Very similar to a junior ADU, but doesn't have the 500 square foot limitation. Type 1C is converting an existing detached accessory structure, such as a garage or workshop. So someone has to choose 1A, 1B, or 1C. They can't combine those. And then a fourth type they can choose from is an attached new construction, again, if it's built prior to any other ADUs. And that's, again, because this is non-state exempt, we can apply design criteria on this, as well as we can make the decision that if somebody has already taken advantage of building one of the other ADUs that they're allowed to, we're not obligated to allow a second ADU when it's non-state exempt. So this is, again, new construction rather than converting a portion of your existing home. Any questions on those first four before I move on?
Garage conversion, it's within the footprint of the house.
Mhm.
Is that a conversion, or is that considered?
That would be this one.
That's what I thought. And I thought when you got to 1C that you said something like a workshop or a garage, and I thought, wait. You
Like a
didn't really
detached, it'd have to be a detached
treat
garage.
Detached garage,
Yeah.
which is probably not as common in our current inventory of single-family homes.
Correct.
Okay.
And can you just go back to 1A quickly? What's the difference between 1A and 1B?
This is when someone's building the entire home with an ADU inside.
Okay.
So they're coming in, they're saying, I'm building a new home, it's going to include an ADU.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But that would still mean that there's a separate entrance, separate kitchen, separate bath.
Correct. Okay. I'll move on to type 2 if we're ready. Okay. So now we're in the second type, and again, this one of the next two can be selected in addition to one of the ones from type 1, unless you're, triggering one of those caveats that I mentioned. So this is the first one, 2A. It's state exempt. It's going to be a detached new construction ADU, 800 square feet or less. Must meet at least 4-foot side and rear setbacks, and whatever the applicable height limit is under state law. So that would be a range from 16 to 20 feet, depending on basically how close you are to BART. We'll actually go into the height limits on another slide. And then type 2B is also detached new construction, but this is where it's over 800 square feet. And that would also have to meet those same setbacks, but we're not specifying that in the code because it is covered elsewhere. But for type 2A, we have to specify that to qualify as a state exempt ADU. Any questions on type 2? Okay, so hopefully no one's head will explode. We're going to get a little more complicated here because we thought that, based on planning commissioner questions, we thought that it'd be helpful to talk about how ADUs combines with SB 9, another state law that essentially allows additional, typically smaller units to be built in single-family zoning districts. And they can be combined, and so we did want to cover this. So on the left, we're showing how many units you could get by combining ADUs, maxing out the number of ADUs that you can build, and then also building an SB 9 unit. So on the right, you have the, in blue, you have the existing single-family home. You can add your 2 ADUs and 1 junior ADU as shown in the purple. So that gives you 4 units. And then under SB 9, you're allowed to create a so-called 2-unit development, which is considered different from ADUs. And that would allow you to basically turn your home into a duplex, or you could also, that orange box could be a detached, standalone, single-family dwelling. But either way, you would get up to 5 units. I want to stress that this is going to be probably a pretty unique situation. One, a lot of homeowners may not want to cram as many units as possible onto their lot, but 2, you need a certain amount of size to meet all of the setbacks that are required. But it is possible that there may be somebody that's just seeking to maximize rental income, and state law does allow this scenario with, if all of the other objective criteria can be met. We do have, I'll note that we do have design criteria for SB 9 units. They have to match the primary home architecturally. So we have some guardrails on this type of scenario.
So by SB 9 unit, what we're basically using the nomenclature SB 9 unit to be a duplex. You're turning, in each of these cases, step one is you're turning the primary home and creating a duplex. The one on the left, the SB 9 duplex unit is the 5th unit. The one on the right, you're lot splitting first, duplexing on the lot split and duplexing on the original lot, and then adding 3 accessory dwelling units for one lot.
So that's all correct except for the sequence on the right.
And then there could be multiple sequences going on.
Because the only way that somebody could have those 3 ADUs is if they do that before the lot split. No, actually, I don't believe that's correct. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's not correct. You would be able to do the lot split. Oh boy, I'm thinking.
Can you do, on the lot split scenario, can that, the lot with the 2 SB 9 units only, can that also have ADUs? Is that
No, it could not. The way our SB 9 ordinance is written is that you're allowed to have 2 SB 9 units per state law on each lot.
Yeah.
So that's 4 units there. And that could be a combination of an existing home and then adding a second SB 9 unit. But either way, 2 units on each lot, plus 1 ADU. Thank you. This question is helping me answer my little moment of of uncertainty there. So the reason that you would have to first build those multiple ADUs and then do the lot split is that our code only allows 1 ADU when you have an SB 9 lot split.
Okay.
So there's no way to get multiple ADUs after the lot split.
It also sounds like never mind. But you can get up to 7.
That's right. Again,
What size?
theoretically.
Lot? Talking an R20 zoning?
I wouldn't want to speculate on, it sounds like you're asking what's the minimum lot size that would make this
Just to get
possible.
a concept, because there aren't many R20 zoned lots in Walnut Creek. We're in the middle of election season and we walk door to door and we can kind of see them. They're big lots.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But there is no minimum lot size necessarily to achieve this number. It really depends on the specific configuration, the size of these units. Obviously the smaller the units are, the more, room someone has to maximize. Okay, well that concludes the portion on single-family lots. It's going to be a lot easier going forward. Thanks for your patience. So briefly, let's talk about the maximum number of ADUs on a multifamily lot. The current zoning regulations allow either 2 detached ADUs on a lot that has a multifamily structure, or converting existing non-livable floor areas in that multifamily structure to up to 25% of the existing multifamily units, or at least one, whichever is greater. And based on language in state law, as well as input from HCD, we need to change that to allow both of those options. So 2 detached ADUs, as well as the conversion through of existing non-livable space. Any questions on that?
So by existing non-livable space, it doesn't mean it couldn't be lived in. It just means that it's not currently used to accommodate housing.
Correct.
So this could be like a community room.
It would definitely include something like a basement or a storage room or an attic that's not, currently developed as occupied space. I'd have to go back and check on something like a community room, which is built for human occupancy. It's just not residential space. I think the language in state law is livable, so that may include something like a community area, but I wouldn't want to definitively answer that without double checking.
I think we should check on that because livable might mean it has a kitchen and a community rooms. You could camp in them for a while, maybe.
Okay, let's talk about height. So the current regulations allow ADUs to meet the base district height limit, which I believe is typically 25 feet or 2 stories. And that would be the applicable height if the setbacks are met. But if a portion of the ADU crosses over the required setback line but still meets the minimum 4-foot setback that state law requires, that piece would have to be 16 feet tall. So it would have to drop down. And state law has modified that. For detached ADUs, if the property is within a half a mile of a major transit station, which would be BART in our case, then 18 feet is going to be the allowable height limit, plus an additional allowance of 2 feet if necessary to match the roof pitch of the primary dwelling. So if you think of a Tudor-style home that has a really steep pitch, if someone wants to match that and they can show that I can't match that unless I go up an additional 2 feet, then they're allowed to do that. So that would bring them up to 20 feet. Again, that's only applicable within that half-mile area. Also, if there's a lot with a multi-level, multi-family dwelling, then the allowance would be 18 feet. And that's regardless of proximity to transit. And then everywhere else would be the 16 feet that we already have. So that's detached ADUs. For attached ADUs, the law now states we have to allow up to 25 feet for an attached ADU, but not more than 2 stories. So we have to allow 25 feet, but we don't have to allow more than 2 stories. What we're doing with these height limits is we're maintaining the current approach where if someone is meeting the main building setbacks, they can go up to the base district height limit. That concept will still apply, but where somebody doesn't meet the main building setbacks, the default would go to these state law limits rather than to just 16 feet. This is just a quick list of some other amendments that we thought were worth pointing out. We need to allow sale of ADUs separately through a condo or a similar type of legal instrument. When in a narrow case when they're being built or developed by a qualified nonprofit organization. But otherwise, ADU condos are not allowed. I'll note that there is a bill that authorizes cities to allow ADU condos for not just this scenario, but for any other scenario. But that's not a mandate, that's an option under state law. Secondly, we have specifying that corner sides are treated the same as interior sides. They're also subject to a 4-foot setback. That's mandated by state law. Removing the minimum rental period of 30 days that we currently specify for JDUs. Basically, JDUs basically can be operated similar to a short-term rental. There's not going to be that 30-day requirement that we have in our current ordinance. Removing non-objective standards. We had some language that was just a little vague, a little fuzzy around architectural compatibility. So we've really spelled that out in a much more definitive way, very similar to how we handled that issue on SB9, our SB9 design standards from earlier this year. That's what I just mentioned. And then finally, adding language to allow conversion of non-conforming structures that have a zoning a condition that doesn't meet the current zoning ordinance, for example, we have to allow conversion of those structures to ADUs unless there are health and safety threats. So it really limits the scope of nonconformities that would rule out a conversion. All right, well, finally here at the recommendation. So again, we're recommending to waive reading and introduce this ordinance, making CEQA findings and amending our ADU ordinance consistent with state law, guidance from HCD, and our housing element. Thank you for your patience and happy to take any questions.
Are there any? Matt, please.
Okay. One question I had, a general question, was on if an ADU application or an ADU is built and it's not, assuming it's not deed restricted in some way, how is it characterized? Because I saw in the staff report, we rely on these for low or moderate. So what category does it come into?
In terms of affordability?
Yeah.
And when there's no deed restriction, we report those to the state based on their floor area and their number of bedrooms. The state has allowed a methodology where you basically pull data from the last year on how much ADUs of a certain size are renting for, and you can kind of just assume that, based on the past, rental amounts, that's what the affordability is going to be.
Okay. All right, thank you. And then there was a section toward the back of the report on objective standards for exterior entrances, and I was just wondering if you would do a little bit of a deep dive on that, because it had to do with entrance of obviously the entrance of the ADU has to be separate from the main home, and it can't be located on any wall plane visible from the street, and we're removing the word visible. Is that because that seems objective to me, but is that?
So I think you're on page 10.
Page 8.
Let's see here. Can you give me a section reference?
So under exterior entrances on page 8.
Are you in the same documents? It looks like Aaron is in the ordinance itself. Are you in the ordinance?
Sorry, I'm in the staff.
Oh, okay.
Really marked
Okay.
up with red.
Okay. Yeah,
My first
I've got exterior entrances here in the ordinance. And okay, you're looking at the deleted text. Yeah, any other wall plane that is visible from the street. So I think staff felt that visible from the street is going to be very difficult to objectively define and enforce because
Where on the street?
yeah, where on the street? How can it be? Hundreds of feet away with a pair of binoculars, or can it be? Standing. Climbing a tree. That's a street tree. So you get into lots of weird scenarios, and so we wanted to just make it a lot easier for the public and for staff to know what that means.
Still has to have its own separate entrance, but it doesn't have to be visible from the street. You showed several scenarios where the ADU was at the back of the home.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. It could have an entry facing the rear yard. Is that?
So per exterior entrance, the new language, an exterior entrance shall be provided for all ADUs, independent of the exterior entrance, so it has to be a separate entrance. No exterior entrance to an attached ADU shall be located on the same building side as the main entrance to the single-family dwelling.
Okay.
So that's only for attached.
Yeah.
So for detached, they can.
So it actually can't be on the street side, assuming the main home is on the street side. If it's attached, it has to be on the back.
Well, if you have a wide lot, with room to build next to your home,
Yeah.
toward the front, then that could have
Okay.
an entry that faces the street. It's really, this is intended to avoid the appearance of a duplex.
Yeah.
We have ADUs in the front yards of homes.
Mm-hmm. And state law has gotten a lot more mandatory, for lack of a better word, when it comes to front setbacks. Our ability to prevent ADUs within a front setback is severely curtailed under the most recent legislation.
Okay, and I think just two more. I think you mentioned, was it AB 2477? It was a law from this year, so we're incorporating even the latest round of changes the governor just signed into our ordinance?
Not the ones that have been signed in the last several days, but that one, yes.
And then I wonder if we just kind of step back and philosophically if you wouldn't mind getting on your soapbox a little bit, because reading all this and all the changes that are made, I'm just like thinking, why? Like this seems, it's you could almost make the argument, do we need a part-time legislature? That I understand the policy behind promoting ADUs, and I support it. But when we're starting to say it should be 16 feet here unless you're within 4 feet of that, and then it can be 25 feet, as a practical matter, are these changes making any difference? Like, do you see people running down into your office because we made these changes to state law, or is it, what's driving the ADU bus is, I guess, what I'm trying to get at. Can you tell the legislature that?
Well, I would say that in general, these changes are going to facilitate more ADUs. Whether that has shown up in the data thus far, I don't know, and it's probably honestly too early to say, and we wouldn't know if it didn't show up, if that was influenced by other factors like interest rates and the economy, et cetera. But in general, I think allowing a greater number of ADUs, allowing more flexibility with height, allowing more flexibility with setbacks, making sure all the design criteria are objective. All of those things can only help homeowners and applicants navigate the rules and not run into back and forth with the city around what's actually required.
That's helpful, and I think that's a good point. So it's not, you can't point to one of these changes as saying, oh yeah, this is it, this is the holy grail. But if kind of the cumulative nature of these changes is going to lead to more ADUs produced.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that.
Thank you.
So I wanted to step back. I thought you were going to go here. I want to step back and ask, we've got 6 types and categories or whatever they are. Was there a simpler way to do this, or was this derived because this is complicated? And I feel like it's, jujitsu and we're getting wrapped up in a pretzel. If the assumption was that we wanted to have control, is that why we end up like this? And if we said, give us the simplest solution, what would it have looked like? To comply with state law and at least adhere to the standards that we had in terms of size. Meet either exempt or 800 square feet or less, and then larger.
Right.
Is there a simpler way to do this so that it's easier to understand? Have you got a secret slide?
Yeah. Let me just go back to that table. So, yes, I think there was a lot of iterations and wrestling with, okay, how do we carry forward what we can carry forward from our current ADU ordinance? How do we come up to speed with the state law and the requirement now that we have to allow, a type 1 and a type 2, not one or the other? And and if we are going to have non-state exempt ADUs, how do we mesh all that together? And we felt that this was the most clear, not necessarily the simplest, because I think that would require changing our goals, but the simplest and clearest way that we could come up with to do all of that. If we got away from the idea of for type 1D and type 2B, if we were to give up the idea that somebody should only be allowed to do that if they build that ADU first, then I think that would simplify it. Because then you wouldn't have the language in red there about when built prior to other ADUs. That would be one way to simplify it. the flip side of that choice would be that then council would be allowing, ADUs over 800 square feet in combination with the state exempt ADUs when it doesn't have to. But, if that is a trade-off that council would like to make, we would be happy to make that change. So that's one easy way I could think to simplify it. But other than that, we're still going to need, I think, these two different categories because, again, the way state law is set up for single-family lots, they basically list, if it's one of these, you can do that, and if it's a detached ADU of 800 square feet or less, you can do that as well.
Unless we wanted to be more permissive than state law. Because state law, what you're describing to me, is a restriction that was written into state law clearly to address some perceived objection.
Do you want to make a comment?
If I may, as Aaron had started this off, this explanation is really the best we could do to take a very complex set of state laws and attempt to make sense of it over time. And I've described this to some people as trying to go, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? And but that is how the law and the collective set of laws have unfolded. And so the intention here is to bring our ordinance into compliance with the state law so that we're not having to navigate this space between what the state law says and then what our ordinance says, so that there's clarity when people look it up on our website and so forth. And that really is the intention behind this. And so it's not to go beyond what state law requires, but it's to be able to interpret for the public what they can actually build and construct.
And I'll just add to that we won't be relying on our code to be the main way that we convey this information. We'll be putting together a website and a handout that basically breaks this down in a much more digestible way with pictures and with diagrams, et cetera, so that people don't have to read through the code itself. We want the code to be as clear as possible, but we'll have supplemental materials to help explain it, is what I'm trying to say.
And of the people who we have seen, the 147 applications over 5 years or whatever those numbers were, how many were wanting to do more than one? Or is it really most people want to do one and they're going to pick one?
Yeah, I wouldn't know that off the top of my head. That would be anecdotal. We'd have to go back and ask our planners.
In earlier times, I think people's expectations were that they could do one. Now with the changes in state law, more ADUs are possible. And so we might then anticipate in response to the loosening up of the state law and the regulations that we could see more applications, and then having more conversations with the general public that are homeowners, trying to explain all this to them about what is possible.
They're going to need a movie. It's going to need to be translated into 6 languages with subtitles.
Just while you're on this slide, I just want to make sure I understand this point then. So the restriction on 800 square feet, that only applies when you're doing multiple ADUs, right? Because you can do a single ADU that's over 800 square feet.
You can.
Yeah.
You can.
So all these are just, you're mixing and matching and you're doing multiple ADUs. That's when these restrictions come into play.
Well, even if you're not doing multiple ADUs, if you want to be so-called state exempt, if you don't want to have to deal with our objective design criteria, for example, then you would need to stay under. You need to be 800 square feet or less, even if you were just doing that one detached ADU. So it's still important from that standpoint. Yeah.
You can do a detached ADU over 800 square feet. You'll be subject to the objective design standards.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and a few other rules. It's basically the stuff that's in section 504, property development standards for ADUs. So that includes the rules for entrances. That's under design, so all of the design stuff. The size limitations. So we have a table, kind of a sliding scale of if you're studio or one bedroom, you're allowed a certain amount, 850 to 950. Then it's 1,000 if you're two or more. That only applies obviously if you're over 800. But it's mainly the design criteria.
I believe we have at least one new question.
Okay. As the third former planning commissioner, she's over here bad-mouthing us, former planning commissioners. The 30-day rental for a JADU, are we still allowed to require if somebody is going into the short-term rental business in a neighborhood that they have to get the Airbnb or the B&B permit that we have currently?
I would need to ask the city attorney to weigh in on that one.
Yes.
Yes, okay. And then it sounds like on the separate sale, whether or not you can sell your ADU, we are defaulting to only what the state requires right now, which is if you're a nonprofit developer, you can do it. But
Correct.
Joe, the next door neighbor, can't do it yet, but we're going to come back and look at that in 2027.
That's right. We'll check in with the council at that time, along with other, policy options.
And so at that point, we'll have more experience from the couple cities that have started to allow that to see what issues come to fore that we'll have to deal with if we're
That's
doing
right.
that.
Can I ask a question there? I didn't remember it saying nonprofit developer. I remember it said nonprofit, which I translated could also be a religious.
Yeah, a nonprofit.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I'm assuming a nonprofit that has the ability to.
Yeah, it says a qualified nonprofit corporation as defined by the California Government Code.
Okay, are we close to being at the end?
I have one more question. So on the, when somebody is converting a structure that was built without a permit, are we still anticipating that they will have to comply with requirements for separate utility hookups? Many of those don't have separate utilities, and that's not something that we control. It's something that they would have to do with East Bay Med and Central San and PG&E.
Right. I believe that's going to be determined by the utility company.
Okay, so all we do is look at the structure and say, is it safe? And then go on from there.
Right. Let me just take
That's
a quick.
correct. We don't, so the state law allows the ADU as long as it's not unsafe, by definition, to be legitimate or to be recognized as an ADU, even if it was constructed without the proper zoning approvals before. So I would think of it in the context, not so much of the utility hookups, which is a very practical issue for these, but from the city's regulatory standpoint, it's zoning compliance, not utility compliance.
Okay, I'm just making sure that we'll look at the structure and whether or not it's safe, and then they'll have to figure out the other part of things.
That's correct. If, for instance, I think the hypothetical you're talking about is if you're going to create separate meters for the electrical and other services, water and whatnot.
Okay, that is my question.
All right, well, I'm going to ask this. There is any public comment at this moment? And I'm looking around to the potential public commenters, and I'm seeing none looking even marginally interested, so we're going to bring it back to council. And do we have any comments? And keep them short if you do. And the next thing is, do we have a motion?
I'm happy to make a motion, but I also want to make a comment first. First of all, for staff, this was hard. This is what we talk about when we go talk to the legislators, and we say, would you work out the kinks between these laws before you throw them over the wall to all us municipalities trying to comply, because this is a morass. My second comment is I don't think the morass that has been created that we're trying to address is going to make it easier to address the housing crisis. I think it just kind of plugs the holes in the dike of, you know, whatever analogy you want to use. And I would hope that midway through the at the midway point of our 8-year cycle, that we look at this and say, is there a better way to encourage more housing through ADUs and make it simpler? Because I think this is just a patchwork quilt that's going to be hard for the public to understand. So I'm happy to make the motion to waive reading and introduce an ordinance making exemption findings under CEQA pursuant to section 15282H of the CEQA guidelines and amending the municipal code to adopt the proposed amendments to the Walnut Creek accessory dwelling ordinance consistent with state law, guidance from the California Department of Housing and Community Development, and Program H4F of the 2023-31 housing element.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Silva.
Aye.
Councilmember Francois.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilk.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Darling.
Aye.
Mayor Haskew.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And since that's the last item, the good news is we are adjourned.